If you thought they brought back Huggy Wuggy just for the hype, let me tell you, you're completely wrong. Huggy Wuggy is way more important than almost any other experiment. And not just that, Huggy Wuggy and Player have known each other for years. So get ready to find out who Huggy Wuggy really is and why he's so closely connected to Player. To understand this better, let's quickly sum up everything we already know about Huggy Wuggy. In 1984, Playtime Co created Huggy Wuggy as a toy designed to give big, comforting hugs. He was a massive success, leading to the creation of his female counterpart, Kissy Missy. But in 1990, the company took things to the next level with the Big Bodies Project, led by Dr. Harley Sawyer. The goal? Turn toys into giant beings with their own consciousness. The interesting thing here is that Huggy Wuggy was the first one to undergo this transformation. In 1991, Huggy was placed in the factory's main lobby, supposedly to watch over the employees. Dr. Sawyer described them as obedient in a security measure. What happened next was the first sign that Huggy Wuggy wasn't just a mindless, obedient creature. In 1992, he managed to escape the factory. The reason behind it ties directly into this theory. The factory eventually recaptured him and locked him up again. But that wasn't the end of the story. Years later came the darkest event of all, the Hour of Joy. During this massacre, Huggy Wuggy became completely uncontrollable and slaughtered employees without mercy. But after the massacre, something changed. He became more passive, walking around the factory alongside Kissy Missy, almost as if he was searching for peace. After all this, we get to Chapter 1. This is where we first encounter Huggy Wuggy in the game, and his behavior raises a lot of questions. We know Huggy Wuggy has absurd strength and speed, yet he doesn't attack us right away. In fact, he even hands us the key to enter the power room, almost like he's trying to help us. But everything changes completely when we make him fall. At this point, we believe Huggy Wuggy is dead, and this idea is reinforced in Chapter 3, when Poppy herself tells us that Huggy Wuggy is gone.
You killed Huggy. You killed Mommy.
It might seem like there's nothing significant here, but in reality, everything starts making sense with Player's nightmare. In this nightmare, we hear the voice of Stuart, a key character who directly connects to the biggest secret in the entire story. Because it's believed that Player is a former Playtime Co employee named Rich. If you don't know who Stuart is, he is the guy who gave Rich his job. And this is where things get interesting. When Player finds Stuart's VHS tape, we hear some pretty revealing stuff.
No matter what the executives say, no matter the looks you get, just know that I've got your back, kid. Shipping is a family. We look out for each other. That's the way it is now. So don't fight, don't shout, just come talk to me from now on, okay? I don't want another report on my desk like this one. I fight for you, all of you. And I'm in a position where I can do so.
Thanks, Rich. It's good to know not everyone here is terrible to us.
Not everyone, kid. Not everyone.
Worry not, for your supervisor is here and happy to listen. And should you come back years later, your conscience finally getting the better of you, may you descend into the dark and the dust, finding all that awaits you are incomprehensible horrors, each hungry for your return, each eager that they might find you. Perhaps they'd smile at you from a shadow, their smiling mouths full of teeth and meat and plastic, watching and waiting patiently for their turn at a warm welcome. Or perhaps they won't allow you such time to figure your place in the world you'd left, a world that's theirs now. Welcome home.
Stuart warns Rich that someone will be waiting for him in the shadows with a warm smile. And tell me, which experiment has a huge but far from warm smile? Exactly, Huggy Wuggy. And honestly, it's really strange that the monster we see in our nightmare is Huggy Wuggy. The factory is full of terrifying experiments. Why would player specifically dream about Huggy? Why not Catnap or any other monster from Chapter 3? Coincidence? Nah. A lot of people think it's just a way to get fans excited about Huggy's return. But nope. The reason is much deeper and way more terrifying. In Chapter 4, there's no longer any doubt that Huggy Wuggy is alive. After hearing Leaf Pierre's tape, Huggy actually shows up. This time, he's not just a nightmare, and he's not here to give hugs. He violently attacks the door, far more aggressive than we've ever seen before. This isn't the same Huggy who was lurking in the shadows in Chapter 1. Something has changed. It's like something inside him has awakened. After everything we've just seen, do you have any idea who Huggy might really be? Write it in the comments before we reveal the truth. It's time to put all the puzzle pieces together. First, Huggy is not just a nostalgic comeback. Many thought Huggy was brought back just to sell more plushies, but the creator of Poppy Playtime Story made it clear that his return was always planned. But here's the weird part. They didn't leave any obvious clues about his return. Why all the mystery? Because Huggy plays a much bigger role in the story. Second, Huggy and Player have a shared past. I've always believed that Player is rich, and Huggy's clues only reinforce this theory. Think about it. In Chapter 1, Huggy could have killed us at any moment. We're literally an ant compared to him. But he didn't. Instead, he helped us by giving us a key. Then, in Chapter 3, a player has a nightmare, and guess who appears? Huggy Wuggy. Coincidence? I think not! Third, Huggy isn't violent towards other experiments. If Huggy were just a mindless killing machine, we'd have seen him attack other experiments. But we haven't. In the Sleep Whale video, Huggy is actually pretty passive. Even after the Hour of Joy massacre, when everything turned into chaos, Huggy didn't attack other experiments. This proves that Huggy isn't like the rest. And finally, Huggy has a personal grudge against Player. Look at how he chases us, how he stalks us. It's not just a simple attack, it's hatred. Like, he knows exactly who we are. But the strangest thing? Kissy Missy doesn't hate us. If she and Huggy were created under the same conditions, why is Huggy full of rage while Kissy isn't? Because Huggy knows us. The ultimate clue is this one. Huggy escaped from the factory. Huggy is the only experiment that has managed to escape. But here's the real question. How did he do it? If Huggy got out through the storage and production area, that means the person inside Huggy knew that area before becoming an experiment. Now tell me, who worked in the factory storage area? Exactly, the kid from Chapter 4. Huggy is the kid from Chapter 4, the same person who spoke with Rich, and if Rich is Player, then everything starts to fall into place. Now it all makes sense. That's why he hates us. That's why he chases us with such rage. Think about it. Player's nightmare in Chapter 3 was originally meant for Chapter 1. Why? Because that nightmare is directly tied to Rich's trauma. Yes, Rich has a deep fear of Huggy. And in that same VHS from Chapter 3, the one speaking to us is Stuart. If you remember, Stuart was the one who gave Rich his job.
You know, Richie, with my retirement coming up, they've been pushing hard for me to choose my replacement. I'm thinking about giving the role to you.
But the strangest thing is that in that VHS, the person Rich is talking to is referred to as a kid. And there you have it. Huggy Wuggy is the kid from Rich VHS. That's why he helped us in Chapter 1. But that's also why he hates us in Chapter 4. The rage with which he attacks us, the hatred in his pursuit, it's not random, it's personal. Because we left him behind in that factory. Because Player abandoned him. And the strangest thing about all this is that Huggy Wuggy is the only experiment without his own backstory. What a coincidence that in the same chapter where they'll explain players' past, they'll also reveal Huggies? This isn't a coincidence. What we do know is that Huggy will play a key role in Chapter 5. The question is, will he be our enemy or our ally? Is he chasing us because he hates us? Or is there still a part of that child inside him that is looking for help? Chapter 5 won't just reveal players' identity, it'll bring Huggy back in a way no one expected. Throughout the game, the main villains have been the ones giving us clues about our past. Mommy Longlegs, Catnap, the Doctor, and in this chapter, the one who will reveal the truth is the prototype. If Huggy survived his fall, it wasn't just by luck. The prototype saved him and healed him. If you look closely, his arms and organs are bandaged. But the most important detail is that his wrist has a tourniquet made from his own bow tie to stop him from bleeding out. But why? If 1006 never hesitated to discard other experiments, why keep Huggy Wuggy alive? Simple. When player is about to ruin the prototype's plans, he'll release Huggy, revealing that he is the child player once promised to protect, only to torture him and make him lower his guard. This is where Rich and player stories intertwine. Years ago, Rich worked at Playtime Co, but he lost his position after making a mistake. That's when Stuart stepped in and offered him his job. His task was simple: receive employee reports and decide what to do with them. But one day, an employee under his supervision, a child, came into his office scared, saying he didn't want anything bad to happen to him because there were too many rumors about employees disappearing. Rich, trying to calm him down, told him that as long as he was in charge, nothing bad would happen to him. And that was a complete lie. Days later, that kid made a mistake, and Rich, following the rules, reported him. Not because he wanted to hurt him, but because he thought it'll prove that everything was fine, that nothing bad was happening. But the kid never came back. There were no signs of him. Was he fired, transferred, or did he just disappear? The next day, Rich saw Huggy Wuggy's giant statue placed in the lobby, but something about his gaze felt eerily familiar. It was as if those eyes were accusing him. The weight of his guilt crushed him. His job performance plummeted, until one day he just stopped showing up and never returned. But Huggy Wuggy did come back. Years later, he escaped from the factory, and it wasn't by chance. He left looking for the person who promised to protect him, and abandoned him. Rich tried to forget. He got married, found another job, but the nightmares never went away. Every night, those giant eyes haunted his mind, until one day a letter arrived. Playtime Co was still standing, and then one question tormented him. Is the kid still there? With his heart filled with doubt and fear, Rich returned to the factory, and there was Huggy Wuggy, giant, staring at him, as if he had been waiting for him all this time. And this leads us to the real battle in Poppy Playtime. It's not just against monsters, it's a battle player must face after abandoning the kid he promised to help. If Chapter 4 broke our hearts, Chapter 5 is gonna destroy us. In conclusion, player knew the kid who because of them was turned into Huggy Wuggy. That's why Huggy now harbors so much hatred and resentment, and the prototype will use this to his advantage. Tell me in the comments, what do you think of this theory? Who do you think Huggy Wuggy really is?